Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Hi, everyone. Come on in. As you come in, please speak to me. Let me know that you are here. And if you would like, share. And of course, during this live, if you would comment, I would appreciate it so much. So much. Hello, hello, hello. I'm going to give a few minutes for people to come in, come online. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Hard Conversations with Jeauninè. If you would come in and let me know that you're here. Hello, hi, Lady Kim. How are you? Hello. Hope all is well. I'm gonna give a few minutes for some people to come on because I got something to say today. I got something to say. Let me see. Hello. Where we at? I like that music. All right. Hello. All right, I'm going to get started in another minute. Those that are not on can catch me later. 7:05. Hi, Dad. Hi, Mom. How are y'all? All right. What time is it? A few seconds and I'm going to get started. Hi, Samantha. How are you? All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Hard Conversations with Jeauninè. It is always our mission to embrace, to encourage, to enlighten, to empower, and to educate men and women to be the best versions of themselves, utilizing perspective. I am the accountability coach. So today I want to talk about, and while I was preparing for this today, I had it as another title, but I want to change it to, I want to talk about generational influences tonight. At first, when I was looking it up, it was generational curses, but I don't, even though it can be or is a curse, I don't want to use it. I don't want to specify that in today's conversation. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for those who will join me. If those who are on here can like it and share it. Let's get into it. So I was having a conversation today about a situation where a grandfather called and left a message for his grandson. And of course, everything about Hard Conversations is judgment free. So there's no judgment on anyone, but I like to use my platform as a way of educating people, seeing different perspective, and then trying some different tools to overcome where we are, right? So he called his grandson and encouraged his grandson to vote, which was a very noble, wise thing to do as a grandfather, being around, years and understanding politics a little bit, understanding life a little bit. Of course, the grandfather tells the grandson that he wants him to vote. But what stuck out to me in the conversation was, as he was coming to a close on his statement, he mentioned that if you don't vote, it's going to cause a change in the dynamics of their relationship. Okay. And so as I started to think about that, I kind of took myself out of the grandparent aspect of it and tried to see it from the grandson's perspective. Where it is a wonderful thing for you to tell me to vote, to give me all of the reasons why it's important to vote. There's been cases where people have told their family members or friends or, grandchildren or whatever, who to vote for. And where I understand, that could be the norm. I'm encouraging them to definitely utilize their voice to vote and to assist with bringing about a change. But I think that we have to be mindful of what we say, the tone we say it in. Hi, Dad, hi, Mom. The tone that we say it in and how we are saying it. Okay. I think we have not gotten to a part of understanding when it comes to the difference in the generations, because we choose to dictate instead of conversate. We tend to give orders, or this is what you have to do, instead of ensuring that I give you the tools for you to be wise enough or eager enough to research information for yourself, so that you will now gain wisdom, so that you will now gain understanding, so you will now understand what's going on, what's happening in the world. So it's important that we analyze, and I think I mentioned this word last week, and I mentioned the word evaluate. Hi, Joseph. Evaluate, right? I think that we're in a season, we need to be in a season where we're evaluating everything concerning us. That includes how we speak to people, how we influence our family members, how we help our family members, and the way in which we do all of those. But what stuck out to me in the conversation wasn't necessarily that you're encouraging him to vote, a great thing. But then you took it a little further with, it's going to change the dynamics of our relationship if you don't vote. I think that was to the extreme, and let me tell you why. You can, if you don't vote, I may be a little disappointed, because it's really important that you exercise your right. It's important that you speak your mind, that you stand up for what you stand up for you to evaluate the candidates, see what they're talking about, see where you fit in. I think for so long, life has been more about what I say do instead of research. Find out for yourself. I have information. I have a way. I have a process. It may not work for you, but I have a process. What I've started thinking about this week is that our actions aren't just for us, right? Because I believe to our actions, there are consequences and blessings that come with our actions. But I also believe that our actions are the pathway or the directions for our children to mimic. Because at the end of the day, our children see what we do, hear what we say, and they then become that until they get to an age where they can change the dynamics of how they feel and what they believe, and what they love and what they may not love. I don't blame the generations prior to this new generation, my generation prior to this, I don't blame them for the information that was given or for how they operated in life, because that's what they learned, right? Most of our behaviors are learned behaviors. So that's what they learned, that's what they saw. However, at that specific time, for instance, for me, I was born in 1974. There are things that worked in 1974 that may not work now. And we have to make sure that at all times we are paying attention to what's happening around us, paying attention to how things are evolving, how people are changing, how perceptive is changing, how mindsets are different. We have to take that into account. We can't be so, well, this is how I am, so now I'm going to force that onto somebody else, because that's not fair. Nor is it fair for me to now jingle my relationship with you based on me teaching you to be independent, me teaching you to have a mind of your own, me teaching you principle and what's important, but taking that on as, what's important to you is going to be what's important to me. And I think that becomes a generational influence to our children. And it could be on two sides. It could be a generational influence to our children because we're showing them about wealth, about knowledge, about health, about wills, about spending plans, about college, about all of that. There's great benefit to me giving you that information. But if I'm flipping it over to the other side where I'm being an influence to you that can cause some type of trauma or some type of hurt or pain to you, then we're creating basically people who have to now live life under the influence of what you were or what you have done or doing. Now they have to live their life according to that. Generational influences. Parents who were on drugs. Children who don't have their parents. Dysfunctional relationships. Dysfunctional households. We don't take a moment to stop to think how my behavior can enhance or hinder the life of my child or my grandchildren. I'm not saying perfection, because practice makes you prepared. We know that we strive towards perfection. That means we need to be very intentional about what we're doing and how we're doing it. But we don't talk about the generational influences that have wounded some of us. And what I thought about this week and some time having conversation, I had to think about that everybody has had something in their lives that has caused them some type of pain. Okay. That pain could have been it could have escalated over to trauma. It could have escalated into now this person has a sense of toxicity run around in their brain, dysfunction. And I'm not saying that people who live in dysfunction or who've been a part of dysfunction is now crazy, because there's some people who have worked on what they have acknowledged. So let me go into some information. What's happening? Let me go into some information that I researched really quick, just to give context to what I'm saying. Hi, Samantha. What are your thoughts on pushing education for youth to ensure that their own perspective as they develop, they can have their own perspective as they develop? I think that we are the Parents are the roadmap to the child's future, right? I think one thing that we need to do or be more intentional about doing as parents is making sure that we learn how to shield to a certain degree our hurts, pains, trauma that we've been through. Not avoid it where they can't see it, because, most times it's going to be hard for a child not to see that something is different with mommy or daddy is just not the same right now. It's difficult to do that. Depending on the age group, of course, we want to make sure that they can understand a little bit of what's going on, because too much information will cloud them. They won't be able to understand what direction that they need to go in. But we need to, as they get to a certain age, we want to rear them in having your own mind, being able to be, if you like red, you like red. What I see today is a lot of people saying, like, if I like this leopard print, thankful shirt, dress, right? Somebody else may think, oh, I wouldn't wear that, or that's ugly. And my thing is, that's okay that you don't like it. But you can't force me into not liking it based on you or based on your preference. So I try now to say, oh, well, I wouldn't wear that. I wouldn't wear that. If you change that over to that's something that you wouldn't do, that sets the tone for you. But because you don't like what I have on, don't mean that I shouldn't wear it because you don't like it. And I'm saying that to say we have to make sure that our children understand that they have a mind, that they are creative, that they are acknowledged. And wherever they may end up, okay, we want to make sure that the influences we give them are clear, intentional, well thought about, grounded principles, right? That means things of being nice, speaking, being polite, having manners. Those are the things that we want to make sure that our children have, so that as they grow, they'll maintain those qualities and those principles in life. That's what's most important, the principles, not your preferences. Okay, because you don't like it, don't mean I won't like it. And if you've raised me to be have a mind of my own, you can't then change or try to contain how I think about it. That's one. Two is we also have to be mindful that we are paying attention, that the generation that is here today does not think like we do, or how we were thinking, or how our grandparents or great-grandparents thought. Things have changed from where it was to where we are now. And what we have to make sure that we're doing is that we are paying attention to the evolving of the world, of the school systems, of who your children are around, because things are different. So you don't know, it's important to know the influences that are around your child, but it's also most important for you to evaluate you, which means, like I said last week, stop for a moment, even where you are at this moment. Like your child could be 31, like my child, but take a moment to think about not necessarily what I did wrong, because nobody's perfect, but not necessarily what I did wrong, but at this point, how can I support them in how they operate, right? But what I don't want to do, or what I pray wasn't a situation, is that my children saw me in a certain space and then adapted that to live. Because that could have been a moment of weakness for me. That could have been a moment of turmoil for me. That could have been a moment of trauma. That's why we have to be very careful of what our children see and what they hear. Because one sentence can stay with a child forever and can then change the dynamics of what they choose to do. But our love for them, not only our children, but those children who are around us, our love for them, our love for wanting the best for them, means that I have to make sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful. What is that? Manners, behavior, understanding that Good behavior is expected, not rewarded. We have to be careful with spoiling our children, because sometimes spoiling our children could go into a sense of entitlement. We have to make sure that we give options. I'm not saying it's not a do as I say, but we have to be careful now, because there's so many people that have lived on the do as I say and then get older and still is stuck because they didn't understand what that meant. I'm not saying you have to tear apart what's going on, but making communication a priority is necessary. So my child likes, I'll use my situation as a for instance. Kevin was infatuated with drums. I didn't understand it. I did know that my little brother played the drums, so it was definitely in the family. His father played the drums, so it was in the family. So it was something that I understand why it was an infatuation, but I didn't know necessarily how to deal with it. So instead of me cultivating the gift, in the beginning, it was, you making too much noise. Stop it. Cut it out. Stop beating on my stuff. Stop making all that noise. Stop banging the drums in the air. Because I didn't understand at that time, hey, Jeauninè, take a moment and understand that he is showing you that he has some type of gift or some type of passion that needs to be cultivated. Like, understand more than scold. So my thing is, pay attention to how they tap into certain things so that you can support that in them. But the principles maintain, right? You speaking, when you see adults, when you walk in a room, you speak. You yes, ma'am, you no, sir. You are courteous, you are kind. Those principles we give to our children. But if we hold them like this, there's no additional information that they can get, only but what you say. And if your delivery for years has been a controlling spirit where you tell me what to do, when to do, why to do it, how to do it, how will I ever learn anything on my own? I think it's important for parents to talk to their children about their experiences, but don't force your child to now live your experience so they won't have their own. That was good. Hi, Elder AJ. We have to allow them to have their experiences, right? It's wonderful for you to tell me that you ran down the street and you didn't pay attention to the floor, so you hit a rock. Ultimately, you want me to be careful as I cross the street. Say that. Not, you bet not, you did it, and when I did it back in my time, it went like this, and that's how it's always going to go. You can't say that. Because times have changed. Who's to say that what happened back in your day is still working for today? Generational influence shapes our world, not just the political, not just the entertainment, not just the church, okay? Because the church does play a large impact on influence for those who walk in the door. That's for adults and children. Please don't force them. It was a time that if I get a live together and have random people coming on the live, I think people will talk about something that has happened in their life that has caused traumatic triggers. It has caused them to feel some kind of way based on one specific situation. And another thing about that is that we take that traumatic event or events, we now hold it in, right? Because we're told that what goes on in this house stays in this house. I feel now, understanding a little bit about life, understanding a little bit of dynamics and family, that can be a very toxic thing to say. Because if somebody in this house is hurting me, that means that I have to keep it in here, but yet I still hurt. And nobody's acknowledging it because we want to keep stuff a secret. People have died or have killed themselves based on an influence from their family. Let me go really quick. Generational curses, I don't want to say curses, I want to say influences. Generational influences can also be seen as a result of dysfunctional behaviors or habits that are learned and repeated within families. Now, let me tell you why that can sum it up. Because the behaviors and habits aren't always acknowledged as a behavior or a habit. This new thing that's being said of, well, that's just who I am. Well, that's just how I operate. To me, is a cop-out. In 2024, it's a cop-out. Because first we got to get to understanding that nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect, right? So everybody's going to have something in their life that's going to happen that they will always remember. My thing is, be very careful of how you allow that thing to shape or mold you, because a lot of times it then becomes, we allow it to fester in us because we're not speaking about it, because we're not saying anything about it, right? We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings and we don't want to make anybody mad. So we hold that stuff in, but then it festers. And then when we're older or when we get to an age of whatever, we're exploding with craziness, or exploding with anger or frustration, or feeling abused, feeling hurt, or feeling manipulated, feeling taken advantage of. Like, there's so many different things that come out of that. So we have to be careful in this time how we deal with things and people that's around us, right? We have to be very careful, even to the point of, I'll continue to use me as an example. It's been a thing for years of me wanting to help people. And me feeling like, because it's my passion, because I know that it's part of my purpose, because I know that, we're here to help people. We're here to, be of assistance in some kind of way. I didn't think that could be an issue or a problem for my children. And I'm not saying that it was. What I'm saying is, I took time to evaluate how what I do, what I say, who I do for can affect my children's perception, not just of me, right? I'm not just defining of how they look at me, but I'm also defining how they can look at a situation similar to that when they have to be when they have to come to a certain point in life. I didn't think about how my help, how the genuine sincerity in my heart can affect them. I'm not saying affect in a bad way, because it could affect them in a good way, where now they have a heart to serve, where they have a heart to help. But it also could have made them put in a position, mommy's helping, mommy's going out her way for this person, mommy is making sure she's there for this person, but I never see that person in return. What can that cause? It can cause my child to look at me like, why do you allow people to treat you like that? And then they can fall into that cycle feeling like, well, if mommy allowed it, I'm supposed to allow it too. That's a generational influence. If I allow people to dictate to me what I have to do, when I have to do it, and my children are watching this, I am now showing them a generational influence. They may not be of age to be able to decipher for themselves, is this the right way or is this the wrong way? Will there be benefits to this, or will there be some type of hindrances to this? We have to be careful what we're showing, what we're displaying to those who are around us, especially our children. I mean, the story about, like I said, I understand that you're calling because you want your grandchildren to be in a, be productive in society and understand the laws and the rules and the government. I totally get that. But when you talk about changing the dynamics of my relationship with you, because if I don't vote, some people may not feel like that's a big deal to you. But if you're not talking to yourself in the mirror saying those things, we got to make sure that those who are receiving our message receive it in the spirit in which we give it. But if I'm telling you what to do, and if you don't do it, then I'm going to walk away from you. I'm not speaking to like, what? What? And most times, people who are in their set ways like that don't understand that now you push people away from you because you keep telling me what to do. Instead of you being confident in what you've instilled in me, confident in what you've shown me, confident in what you've cultivated me in, instead of you being confident in that, you just still telling me what to do, not giving me an opportunity to have a mind of my own. So I think that we have to evaluate where we are, right? Because ultimately where we are is already paving the way for those who are to come behind us. So if I'm showing my child that I'm in an abusive relationship, I'm not talking about just abuse or putting your hands on me. Because everybody want to seem as if that's the only abuse, and it's not. Speaking to me in a tone could be abuse. Not speaking to me is abuse. How you treat me, emotional, mental abuse, physical abuse. Like there's so many things that's attached to that. We just want to take it on as, well, I didn't put my hands on you. Yeah, but you treated me as if I was a child for 30 years. And the moment I decide to do something different, now you have a problem with that because it wasn't for it. Your plan wasn't for me to get a mind of my own. Your plan was for me to do what you want me to do. No, tell it hurt their feelings. That gotta be my mother. So be mindful. Just be mindful. Every day that we get an opportunity to open up our eyes, we need to be mindful about every area of our life. And wherever we need to clean up or start working on, right? Because understanding things like this means that if I've been in a situation where, or for instance, this young man has been in a situation where his grandfather has always said to him, if you don't do this, then it's going to hurt our relationship. Do you understand the damage that can make that child, that young man? That young man can now feel like I can never make a move without my grandfather's approval. What happens if the grandfather is not here any longer? It's about the principles. Give the children the principles. Don't force them to do what you did because it is not your time. We are in a different society. We are in a different world. And what we do and how we do it, it affects not just only us, but those who are around us. And everybody interprets their childhood, because for me, Coach, our behavior stems from something that has happened. There's a root cause to it, especially if it's something that we do on a consistent basis. There's a root cause to it. And I'm not saying, well, if you did something to that nature, that you're a bad parent. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we have to acknowledge where we are and what things have been done. And the biggest part of this whole conversation is when we get to the point of acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is the door that kicks open your freedom from whatever that is. Acknowledgement starts the journey for you letting what you've learned over so many years go. Because now I come to the knowledge, like I got to sit and think. I got to evaluate myself. That's what we talked about last week. So I'm going to evaluate myself to say, okay, where am I? Right? Is there some areas that I need to correct? Is some things from my childhood that I have carried into my adulthood? And if it is, what do I need to do to start the process of making things better for me? Not for my family, because the family would have you stay stuck. Some family would have you stay stuck, but it's not the responsibility of the family to now pull you out of this. Why? Because if the family knew better, If they knew better, then their actions would be different and you wouldn't necessarily be in the position that you're in, because they would have took time to evaluate themselves to figure out, how can I be a better parent? How can I be a better sister? How can I be a better brother? How can I be better for me first? That's first. Hi, Ron. Come on, principals, period. Everything we do will cause some type of influence to somebody. We just have to make sure that we are conscious of what we're doing and how we do it, so that even if, and I'm not saying that I may not have a moment of, I don't know, feeling some kind of way, right? It's not a bad thing, because changing behaviors, right? If I've been in this behavior, I've been doing this specific thing for so long, it takes 16 days to start a habit. So if I've been doing this for 30 years, it's going to take a minute for me to try to figure out, how do I start all over? How do I fix this? Is there something that I need to fix? Is there something that I need to write down of how I need to maneuver through it? But it needs to be a moment of, I've noticed that this happens often. And I talked about it a little bit last week. And if y'all can see my face glistening, I am having a hot flash. And my air conditioner is on. And we think about things that happen in our life, those big things. And let me go back. My conversation to the grandfather would be that the same thing I'm saying. Basically, from you're in your 70s, your grandchild is in his 20s. There's a big age gap. What keeps this connected? Change your behavior. Hi, Minister Peak. How are you, boo? Love you. Praying for you still. What the difference is in between the age gap is principle and experience, right? Principle and experience. Not experience to, I went through this, you need to do this, and you need to do that. No, it's not a bad thing about telling them about your experiences, but it's more about the principle about the experience. Because sometimes people go so hard with what you've been through that you either force that person into never experiencing that at all, or you push that person into experiencing it in a crazy manner. I'll give it for instance. A single mother having a lot of men around. And let's say it's boys or girls. Her children is boys or girls. Having multiple people around, them all coming in the house, every day is somebody new. You can either make your boys feel like this is the behavior that women look for. This is what I'm going to attach myself to, women who want to be with a whole bunch of people, or it can make them feel like I don't want to ever be in that situation where who I'm with got thousands of people just coming around them. For your daughters, it can be looked at as, this is a sign of love. Having a whole bunch of people just come around and being around me, it's a sign of love. My mother dealt with it. She enhanced it. She enforced it. She instigated it. So this is how I'm supposed to live. I'm supposed to do what I see. Or it can make her now change her mind about men totally and decide not to even date a man and decide to go over to another preference. I'll say it like that, to another preference. No matter what their decision is, no matter how they make decisions based on that, if your influence is not well thought out, if your influence is not intentional on trying to provide the best things for those who are around us or for our kids, we're only creating ourselves. We're creating ourselves. We're creating ourselves. Hi, How will they learn if they never experience the consequences of their choices? We all have had to learn. And this is my thing. And I think I talked about this to the person when I was speaking to them. We rob our children of experiences based on us telling them to do this or not to do this. I'm not saying that we shouldn't give those, because we should. Let me give you a for instance. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. If you put your hands on the stove, it's going to burn you. You're going to be in pain. And then you're probably going to have to wear Band-Aids or get treatment, whatever. Even if what we tell them is not good enough and they choose to do it, what the consequence that the burning is already a consequence. We don't got to now beat them up because they didn't listen to us. They know the consequence now. So now we know that they're not going to touch that stove again. And if they choose to touch it, then that means they have to learn the lesson once again, just like most adults, right? We go through a situation. We don't learn our lesson the first time. We end up in the very same situation, just a different face. And then we mad because the situation happened, and now we mad at the person. And the person like, I just showed up. But it was you that was supposed to change your mindset or perspective about what you've already been through so that you don't go through it again. I think that there are a lot of people walking around now hurt, scarred, and wounded because we did what we knew to do, but we never did more to find out a better way or a wiser way. They learn better when they experience their fire. They learn better, especially if, and this is the other part to it. We say, don't do this, but we doing it. They may not see the consequences that we've had to deal with. Okay, no problem. You want to test it out, y'all? Okay. Now I've given you tools. I've given you warnings. I've explained to you. And I think that's another thing too, because in the old time days, it wasn't a lot of explaining of why. So now the kids are like, no, why though? Tell me why. You can't tell me that I got to do this. I mean, you can tell me that I got to do it, right? But we have to understand that doing that can cause issues later on, where I told my son, his son started acting up, Tamar started acting up at school, and it was like 2 years ago. And I said to him, you have to explain to him what you're saying. And you have to keep explaining it until you think that he understands it, or until he can basically repeat it back to you or say, yes, they don't understand. This is why you don't want me to touch the fire, because if I touch it, then we may have to go to urgent care and I may have to wear my handbag. We need to, and I'm not explaining my decision, but I'm explaining to you so that you may be wiser in that situation. And if you come up to it again, maybe you'll make a better decision. And not only can you make a better decision, but then you can help somebody else. I don't know what this new thing is, that once I learn something, I'm not going back to teach somebody else or to empower somebody else or to educate somebody else. I just want to keep them in the same place. But then we complain that they act in some kind of way that makes no sense. If you're not here to ensure that people are better overall, and I'm not saying it has to be your mission or your passion, but this immediate negativity that we live in is crazy work to me. And it's so time consuming that we get so razzle-dazzled and upset about minute stuff, but we don't pay attention to that which is important. The seed you plant is important. The seed in the ground that you plant is important. You got to be careful of what you're planting, that seed that you're planting, whether it's your child or somebody else's child. You have to be careful. and telling somebody that if they don't do something, that there's going to be some type of repercussions to your relationship behind that is crazy to me. And it's unfair to now your child to have to live in fear that if I choose to follow my mind, I might not have a relationship with my grandfather based on the fact that he taught me to have my own mind. Like, that boggled me, and it hurt. It didn't hurt me, but it made me upset because we don't understand how our conversation is an influence to people and how it can be a generational influence to our children and then our grandchildren. Because my thing for this specific case with this grandfather is there's no way in the world that the grandfather is telling the grandson what he got to do. And if he don't do it, what he's going to do, and you didn't do that to your children. Seeds need to be cultivated. Absolutely. Absolutely. It got me a little razzle-dazzle today. By that scenario. And I was like, I need to come on and I want to give perspective on that. You know, we need to be very careful that what we've been through doesn't seep out or pour into those that's around us, right? Because hurt people hurt people. And sometimes it's not because they sit and they think about or they write down ways to hurt people. But if I've lived in a life where there were so many blows to me that hurt me, so many blows to me that damaged my self-confidence, my self-will, my self-love, if I've been in situations that has harmed me in that manner, what am I pouring into my children or my grandchildren? I'm pouring that toxic behavior. I'm pouring those dysfunctional behaviors into them. And then we want to be mad. They don't listen. Well, what did you pour? What was your pour? Was your pour clean? Was your pour clean to a point where I dealt with my issues? Because nobody is going to be exempt from issues. Everybody's going to have something. I'm not saying that your issues are going to be, to the point of you need to be in a house with some padded walls. But everybody has going through something traumatic in their childhood that they can remember very clear and very vivid today, that has helped shape and mold them into the person that they are. But if we don't take a moment to evaluate where we are, if we don't take a moment to evaluate those influences, good or bad, that has been around us, if we don't stop for a moment, if we don't pause to evaluate that, then we're pouring that into our children and those who are around us. Not just our children, because those of you who are married, if you don't deal with the trauma that you have gone through or something horrific that you've gone through, some type of, hey, Lady Mo, if you don't deal with that, if you don't acknowledge that there's something that has happened that has been an influence or a driving force in your life, if you don't deal with that, it will continue to be a driving force in your life, and you will pour it into those who are around you. Not just your children, but if you've been in a bad relationship before and you haven't dealt with everybody ain't like that or trust issues, if you haven't taken time to deal with those issues, and figure them out or let it go or navigate, how can I work through this or how can I let this go? If you don't do that, then that means in the next relationship that you're giving a pour from the last relationship. I don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want that. Generational influences can cause our children to not be productive. Our influence can cause our children to be timid. Our influence can cause our children to grow up with insecurities. We can influence rage, anger, hostility. We can influence a little bit of everything. My plea tonight is that we take a moment, like I said last week, and what I'm always going to say is that we take a moment to evaluate where we are now. Because one thing we can't do is we cannot turn back the hands of time. But what we can do is take some time, quality time, and to evaluate where we are so that we're not repeating the cycle, A. B, so that we're not pouring our toxic traits, things that we didn't let go of, our hurt, our pain, our trauma, so that we don't pour that into the next generation or into someone else. This is just how I am is a cop-out. This is just who I am is a cop-out. That makes me feel that you are not in a posture to ever learn more than what you know now. That makes me feel that you're comfortable in mediocrity, because I feel like we've all got to always be climbing to the top. Like nobody ever just arrives. Like you, even when you get to a place that you want to be, there's still more for you. It's still more. It's still more. So I got razzle dazzle today, and I wanted everybody else to get razzle dazzle with me. I was like, what is happening? What is happening? Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Now, I will say that I always say that I'm a minority. So, I had a good upbringing. I'm not saying that things were perfect for us, but I'm not saying that, like I see so many situations pertaining to the conversation that I had. That conversation with the grandfather saying that to the grandchild made me now evaluate what the children dealt with. Because if you are controlling like that to your grandchildren, there's no way in the world you could tell me that you didn't do that to your children. Now I'm going to, as Coach Jeauninè, evaluate the behaviors of your children to see if that influence that you gave to your children has harmed them in a certain kind of way. And yes, it did. Why? Because my father, and I'm not talking about as me, because my father, this is not my father, but my father has taken on the position of being very controlling to me, telling me what I need to do, when I need to do it, how I need to do it. If I don't do it right, he's on my case about that. Mind you, I'm an adult. So where does that put me? That puts me in a place of either being a people pleaser because I wanted to make my father feel like his word or his encouragement or his dialogue and conversation with me was meaningful. So now I take on the control as now I got to make sure that everybody is okay with what I do. Or if somebody says something to me, now I've taken that on to be not necessary because I don't feel that the people pleaser is in the moment saying that this person is controlling me. You're not. People pleasers in the mind of I want this person to be okay with what I'm doing. I want them to be happy with me. I want them to like me or to love me in this moment. And that is so crazy. That controlling influence can have people become people pleasers because I've been forced into doing so many things a certain kind of way, and you forced me into this, and I was just looking for you. I was just looking for love. I was just looking for direction because you're my father, so I'm looking for this from you. But instead I get, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So now that puts me in a place of now I'm either a people pleaser or now I have an attitude where I don't even want to be bothered with people who speak their mind. People who say certain things. We don't understand how what we say can be interpreted by somebody else in a negative way. And just saying, well, that's just who I am, or, you just got to figure it out is crazy work to me. No, you shouldn't put that on somebody to now have to deal with who you are because you're comfortable in your foolishness. No. Why are we doing that? You never know how well you did with your children until you see your grandchildren. My family always says that. Daddy always says that. Absolutely. And you did well, Dad. I'm not saying I'm a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but that's not your fault. It's really mommy's fault. I got this lock that keeps standing up and it's making me mad. Yeah. I know this all too well, Lady Mo. We have to be mindful. No, we wasn't taught to take extra time out to figure things out. No. Back in the days, that wasn't something that was given. That the generations before us were so busy working and trying to take care of family and, trying to do the best that they had, that it wasn't a situation where maybe this way is not the right way. Let's just stay in this because it's working for now. And it's my plea that we take time out to think about who we are, what we offer, right? What we need to fix, what we need to adjust, what we need to shift so that we are the best versions of ourselves, so that whoever we pour into, whoever we influence is getting the best version, not the broken version, not the beat up version, not the stifled in comfortability version. Okay, because people don't understand that your influence of being comfortable can stagnate somebody around you. Don't ever be comfortable in who you are. Always try to push to be the best version of you. And that's by any means necessary, whatever you have to do. And if that means that I need to take a moment and search where I can be better at, then we need to do that. But we need to be mindful of the influence that we offer, because the influence is not just for us. The influence is not just for those who are around us, but it's for those who are to come. Because our influence may influence a generation to come or generations to come. And what I want people to understand is that I took time to evaluate life. I took time to pay attention to the needs of people, and I did what I needed to do or what I could do to give them tools to see a different way or to see a better way. I'm not saying anybody failed as a parent, because again, back in those days, they did what they saw, what they knew what was best to do. And because things have changed, now opportunities and resources have changed. Now the younger generation has so many opportunities to see different things. They have so many opportunities to learn different things that our just do as I say is not working in 2025. So we have to make sure that we are now. We're in now. We're not planning for 2025, but we're here. We're in 2025. And what do I need to do to, one, make sure that I am better, that my words are edifying and not damaging? Because saying to someone, if you don't do something, then that can change the dynamics of our relationship, is crazy work. And I necessarily wouldn't, it's not a blame. If y'all have listened to any of my lives before, I'm very careful with the whole blame, because blame to me makes people feel, it gives a negative thing. And then it almost gives a, now I want to point the finger at it. Sometimes we don't understand that bad thing that has happened to you was really a good thing. Because if your circumstances were different, you may not still be here. You may not be in your right mind. You may not be well mentally, emotionally, however. So my time is up. I just wanted to come on here real quick and do that. I'm still going to be talking about, of course, everything about me as far as accountability is about looking in the mirror first. Before we can hold someone else accountable, we need to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And that we're doing it very successfully. That may take time. It may take time for us to learn a different way, or to learn a different verbiage, or to learn how to take a moment before we speak, or how to think before we speak, to change the dynamic of our behavior. But it is necessary, because those of you around you, you either gonna build them up or tear them down. And I think we need to be very careful of what we do, because everything we do is going to come back to us. The Bible says that whatsoever the man soweth, that he shall also reap. We say in the world, well, now I'm not saying I'm in the world, but we say what goes around comes around. And so that pour, if you're not pouring right, if you're not pouring intentionally and you're not being mindful of your pour, that got to come back to you. And what you don't want to do is now have to live in a space that you have to live now in your reaping season, because you didn't take time out to think about what you was doing and how you was doing it to those who are around you. So I just wanted to come on tonight to encourage somebody, empower somebody to take a moment and to think about where you are. Think about those influences that you have around you. Think about those voices that you have in your ear. And evaluate what those voices are saying. Evaluate how those voices are speaking. Evaluate if it's an enhancement to your life or it can be a hindrance to your life. And then once you evaluate that, you take action, right? Acknowledgement is the first step to any healing process ever. Because if I have a scar, but I don't acknowledge that there's a scar, and I don't acknowledge that I need to take care of that scar, and I don't acknowledge that if I don't take care of the scar, what the repercussions of that can be, then the healing will never be proper. The healing will never be successful. It may leave a scar, but will they have to take my arm off because of it? So acknowledgement is key to change behavior. Acknowledgement is key to new perspective. And I hope that today's conversation was an enlightenment to some of us, so that we can, again, be very intentional about what we do and how we do it, so that we are giving the best versions of us to those we influence, whether it be our children, our grandchildren, our spouses, our friends, our loved one, whatever. Be intentional about making sure that you are okay and that you give substance as your influence. I love y'all tonight. An infection can set in if untreated, and it can set in if untreated. And sometimes sometimes the infection can cause you to lose a limb, a finger, an eye. It can cause you to lose something where they may have to amputate it. Now you have to deal with, or not deal with, a hand or an arm or a foot or something of that nature. But also infection can kill you, depending on the cause of the infection. So just wanted to come on and encourage you guys tonight to be very mindful about your influence, and know that everything you do, whether you think there's a whole bunch of people around or not, your influence, your disposition, your character, how you carry yourself is being watched by people. And most of the time, those people are those in the house with you or your children. So you have to be mindful of who you are and what you show, because you are creating the next generation. And if at this point your children are of age or, growing up, still take a moment to see where I am. What adjustments can I make? Because at the end of the day, when raising children, we have to make sure that we give them the correct tools for them, not the tools that we use, because our tools in 1980 is not going to help my son in 2025. I promise you it's not. So you need to take these conversations on the road. Yes, I do, Daddy. I'm open for it. Ultimately, I want to help everybody, helping everyone, my acronym, helping everyone live on purpose. And that is just helping to provide perspective and tools. We're going on to a perspective and tools to be the best person that you could be, not just for yourself, but those who are around y'all. All right. I will be back next Monday, same time, same place. I love you all so much. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not how you love me that affects my life, but it's how I love you that affects my life. Remember, I am here to embrace, to encourage, to enlighten, educate, and empower you to be the best versions that you can. And so tonight, make sure that your influence will help a generation become who they need to become and not to mimic what you've become. Take care of yourself and your family. I love y'all. Bye.